Good morning, Solaris 7. Calgary Battletech brings you Uncivil Discourse with your hosts, Brett, Lee, and commentary from Jacque. Once again, thanks to everyone for tuning in for another episode of our podcast. 4 under our belt and more to come. We wanted to touch base with you, the audience, as you are as important as anyone else. We want you to be entertained and find value in our show. We do it to entertain, we do it to enjoy the experience, and primarily to add something extra for our players in the league. With that being said, we want your feedback. Yes, you. Stop looking around, I'm talking to you. Thanks for letting us know what you like or what you might want to see in future episodes.
The league is halfway done, with games still going strong and players going in for the kill. Let's see if we can't get a little bit better communication, people. We want to know what your skill spends are, if you're banking points, and maybe what you're trying to save up for. Maybe we can always give advice. To if you're going to be in attendance on game day, or if you're rebooking for an alternate date. Even if you've contacted your opponent, it's always a good idea to get a hold of the administration so that we can help organize things. You never know, we may even have a venue you can play at. So far this season, bookings have been fantastic, as we've had over 70% of the games that have been played on the game day and on site at the Ogre's Den Gaming Club. Happens to be located at number 23, 3220, 5th Avenue Northeast, Calgary, Alberta.
That's going to take us into the skill spins for this week. We've had some good spins so far. Not everything is done and said. We still have some more time for people to get skill spins in. However, the early submissions, the Draconis Spirits Thunderbolt picks up Field Test. Look for some alternative missile ammo on those SRMs. The Draconis Spirit Awesome also picks up Creep and Doom. Merrick's Marauders Crusader decides he needs a better ride and goes with the Merrick Marauders' iconic mech, the Arc 4M Archer, and manages to pick up missile grouping for the same pilot. Carstairs Stables' Battlemaster is going to pick up Technician. I don't need any rear-facing medium lasers. Those can go forward now. The Thunderbolt for Carstairs Stables picks up Clan Salvage on the LRM. No more minimum range for that boy. First Clovis Lancers, Rifleman, picks up Gunnery. Cat is going to be a much happier pilot, and possibly a bigger target. Crimson Ronin decides its Crusader needs to be engineered a little bit to remove all those little guns, the pesky machine gun and flamer and anti-missile system that they always forget to turn on, and add some more armor and ammo. The Atlas for the Crimson Ronin picks up Personal Vendetta. Executive Outcome Banshee, Personal Vendetta. Executive Outcomes Orion picks up Anticipation. Meanwhile, coming down from the north, the 55th Shadow Division's Shootist picks up Engineer to drop the ER Large and gain jump jets. And Personal Vendetta. I'm seeing a pattern this week. The Red Sun's Irregulars, Warhammer, picks up Gunnery. The Killer Bunny's Zeus picks up Erratic Piloting. First person this season to look at that skill. And the Grand Dragon for the Killer Bunnies picks up Mech Jitsu. That gives us about half of the spends in. Now, people still have a little bit of time because of the holidays and the extended period of this match and the next match. But that gives you guys a good idea. We'll touch base when we have the rest of those skill spins so that everybody can be in the loop.
Just a thought on some of those skills you brought up there, Brett. There's a few of them definitely stand out. The most common skills being picked up this season? Well, we've got 5 people who've picked up Personal Vendetta, 12 that have used Engineering, Technician, 4 people, Clan Salvage, 11 people, that's more than half the league, and Chassis Upgrade or Reassignment, 7 people have done that. It's actually really interesting to see the trends and the overall pattern that things are being purchased, because we'll be able to use that to tweak skills, add new ones, and see what we can do to improve the league.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised by this, to be honest. Between Engineer, Technician, and Clan Salvage, we're looking at, 25, 26, 27 purchases, and then 7 for either Chassis Upgrade or Reassignment. It sounds like just about everybody has their stable the way they need it to perform based off of the intro 6K BV limitations. Going forward for the second half, we should start seeing a lot more skills pop up that aren't just, I need to fix problem A with solution B. Let's touch base about some of those problem A's and solution B's from the previous week of games that we've had come down. Game number 1, the Clan Cobra Chickens versus the Traconis Spirits. They meet up on the River Valley. That game's actually still slated to play. That is our only outstanding game so far. We'll get back to you, fight fans, with an update when we have an answer for that one.
Yeah, we made our predictions last week, and we'll keep them to ourselves to see how things worked out.
Game number 2, the Blitzkrieg Jezebels chase down the Einherjar in the Plains of Death. 2-1 victory for the Jezebels here.
Very entertaining game was played. A lot of damage done. There's 2 things that the Einherjar have picked up. One, they really hate the Plains of Death maps, as well as their Dragonfire might be picking up some piloting skills soon to try to offset being knocked over and the difficulty of standing up with flip arms.
That almost seems like a running issue for that stable. Game number 3, we see the Red Suns Irregulars pull the Cavalier Commandos. These guys showed up to the Death Star this week looking for some TIE fighters. One of the TIE games played on our custom map number 3.
I'd have to say this was one of the ones that we were having a hard time making decisions on who was win, who's going to lose. A tie was definitely an improvement for one player's season, and probably a bit of a disappointment for the other.
From what I understand, though, they both had a good game, both had some fun, and both walked away from the table happy. So that's really, at the end of the day, all we can hope anybody plays out for. Game number 4, meeting in the Wooded Hills, the Killer Bunnies bounce up and down and all around, but fall down against Carstairs Stables. Those beefy boys just take too much punishment. Thunderbolt, Battlemaster, take a pounding and just keep standing. 2-1 victory for the Mech Jocks from Carstairs.
This was a real scrum game, where all 6 of the mechs were always within 5 or 6 hexes of each other, with only a couple floating around the outside as skirmishers. The Bunny Shadowhawk took it like a champ, taking 81 points of damage in a single turn of shooting, yet still stays up on its feet. That kind of damage means the writing's on the wall, though. This game saw some continuous combined fire from the Carstairs up-and-comers, picking a target and then pounding it down with at least 3 or 4 of the mechs in the lance.
Game number 5, Riston's Rogues go hunting for some Shitehawks over the Mountain Lakes Arena number 7. Rogues victory here, 2-0. Kentaro manages to lace the head of the Dervish with a twin shot from the Clan ER Large and a medium laser being the highlight of the day. Doing it the hard way, taking off that head.
This is one of the ones that I had called for Riston's Rogues, and I completely believe they're still going to be in the top 3. It's going to get harder and harder for some of these teams to compete, but I can definitely see the skills improving on each of the new teams.
Yeah, it's definitely been nice to see some growth throughout some of our newer players. Game number 6, we see the first Clovis Lancers punching and kicking, dodging and moving, but they still manage to lose to the 55th Shadow Division 4-2, as the Wooded Heels see some double booking this week due to a technical error.
55th Shadow Division is a definite up-and-comer. Their recent loss was really a surprise. But to beat the Clovis Lancers, they had to play a good game. I can see the cream of the league is starting to creep up, and they're starting to become a little bit more obvious. They're no longer just fluke wins or fluke losses.
Yeah, and even our newer players are showing some definite skill improvement. So I think it's coming down to a lot of experienced players picking mechs that mesh better for their playstyle and together as a unit, as opposed to this player's got hot dice, that player doesn't. Coming into game number 7, Hubris Inc. and Macro Stables. Still working on a timetable for this game, but as it looks, they're going to be unable to find anything in the Foothills Arena that works for them. So due to scheduling conflicts, this is going to end in a draw 1-1.
Well, this is our first actual draw due to the inability to set up a meeting that worked for both players. It's unfortunate when it happens, but at least it's not a loss.
Yeah, I expected that we're going to have at least 1 or 2 in a season. When you've got 9 games every week, 8 weeks over the season, as you said, disappointing when it happens, but this is the first one of the season and we're halfway done. I'm actually pretty happy with that overall. Game number 8, the Merrick's Marauders go hunting for our youngest league member, trying and frying and frying and trying for a win. They do manage to get it, though. 1-0 victory for Merrick's Marauders in the Road and the Hills.
The only thing I have to say is fear. Fear should never determine what your next action is going to be. And it looked like Alex had a little bit of tentativeness with his hunchback with the LB20X. I was more scared of it than he really understood. And that's why I was firing on it so steady. If he had just kept charging in, I think he would have actually got that gun off a few times and could have completely changed the way this game ended up.
Yeah, with the Clan LB20 with favorite weapon on it, there's one of two ways that played out. Either he could go really hard and aggressive and lose the mech, but do some serious damage and maybe take something with him. Or once you started pounding on it, he ran it away and ran it around and made you try to go and chase after it if you wanted the kill, which you didn't. You just tried to concentrate on the rest of the lands. So it kept his losses down. As you said, I think it was a little bit more of tentativeness than strategy, but it's a good learning opportunity for somebody new. Game number 9, Executive Outcome and the Ghost Legion face off over the Red Peaks. This brutal match saw some of the serious firepower being tossed back and forth early on and throughout the whole game. This is relatively due to the fact that it went something like 28 turns overall. It did play out as a long-drawn game. The turns went by fast, nobody was really holding back, and both players were just eager to get going. Ghost Legion Warhammer was reduced to a pair of legs, center torso, and a cockpit early in the game. However, being a zombie, that mech got back up and ran around trying to keep from getting killed. Wolverine failed a piloting check to stay standing when he was up on the heat scale, and that led to his demise. And when the Wolf Trap ran out of ammo for both the LRMs and the LBX, it got killed. The Orion was the first mech to go down, followed by the Executive Warhammer. Game ended in a nearly crippled Banshee laying down behind a hill while the clock expired with the Griffin trying to hunt the Warhammer and the Gunslinger trying to keep it alive. This game ended in a 2-2 tie where everybody was just biting their nails and holding on, looking at the clock to see somebody else going to drop, or is this going to be the end? And a tie for both of these players that just threw everything out on the table.
This is the one everybody should have been paying really close attention to, and I'm glad to see that we got the recorded score in. Thanks, Brett. As these are another of the two top teams of the league. Executive Outcome is a constant threat, and the Ghost Legion, played by a veteran player and our host, Brett, knows how to play this game. Year veteran of Calgary Battletech. A 2-2 tie isn't surprising. It would have been more understandable with a 3-3.
Very clearly could have been, because the Warhammer was a internal structure center torso running around, and the Banshee was missing most of its right leg with only a little bit of internal structure and was ready to go internal on the center torso on it too. So very clearly could have ended 3-3. This week we have an extra special guest, Jason, someone who has a long history with the Calgary Battletech League, but moved away from us before the season could start. Jason will be doing the interviews today, as we, the hosts, will be here to answer some of the questions. Jason, take it away.
Well, I guess I've been involved in the Calgary Battletech League since, the late 90s. We were talking a while ago, and we can't even remember what year it was, but 97, 98, somewhere around there. In fact, I think I started with the year that Brett started as well. Some friends got me into, some mutual friends got me into Battletech, and there was just something about it that just drew me in. The rich history, the loads of stories, and the intrigue with all the various houses, and then throw in the clans and all that. It just drew me in, and then add in the league where we could meet up every 2 weeks or every week. I can't remember what it was back then, and just chuck dice at each other for several hours, and then that was the way things went. There was even a couple of years there where I ran and maintained the forums for the league. That was probably the early 2000s.
Thanks a lot for that little bit of background history, Jason. It's always nice for our viewers and listeners to get a little bit of idea of who our guests are and what makes them special to us. So you've got a couple of questions for us?
Yeah, sure do. So, what really brought you guys into the BattleTech world? Was it prompted by anything?
Well, I know for myself that was back in high school, and I was avidly reading. And in that time frame, there was so many novels coming out that we were getting a few every year. It seemed, if not a half a dozen every year. I had one buddy that kind of got me interested into BattleTech. We played in his basement a couple of times, and then after that, it just took off like a kid in a candy store.
Which would have been the Sentry Box.
Funny enough, it probably was.
And how about you, Lee?
What got me into Battletech was actually a friend of mine that I met in high school. I was a big fan of Robotech and Recross, but didn't know what any of that meant, actually. I didn't know anything about anime. And he says, "Oh, you like that stuff? Well, you got to check this out." And he shows me all these battle mechs, and that was great. I was completely hooked, because now I could play as those units, even though they're not actually the same universe. That's what got me into it. And then when I got into playing, I fell in love with the history, 1,000-year history, if you want to follow the lineage of one group or the other, and the fact that you could be part of a history and a storyline where you could change things if you wanted to, but you could do a million other things and have no effect on the galactic universe.
Yeah, it was definitely like that for me. One of the things about the story, it was that the technology wasn't far out there, like, Star Wars or Star Trek or anything like that, right? Like the way that everything worked made sense. For me, and I'm a huge clan boy. For some reason, I just really enjoy that whole aspect of it. So when I think of BattleTech, I do think of the Mad Cat, or the Timberwolf, as I guess I should call it. What really, what's the picture that you guys see when you guys think of BattleTech?
For me, it's the Marauder, that Zendradi command pod. To me, it's alien enough and sleek enough that it looks really futuristic, but then the cockpit's open and you see a guy sitting there relaxed, just totally human. It gave you that feeling of like you were talking about, futuristic but not so far out of realm that we couldn't reach it ourselves eventually. That's really what defined me, was the nitty gritty, especially the 80s artwork.
For me, it's the Wolverine. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I just love the mech through and through. It has a good balance between beef. It can take a punch. It carries some weapons. It's fast enough that it goes 5.85, and it's just, you need it to do something, that's the mech for you.
Well, I guess you just answered the next question I was going to ask you, which was, what's your favorite mech? And I guess maybe you both answered it from both your answers. But would you change that at all? Change your answer at all?
Well, my favorite mech actually is the Archer. It's not the Marauder. I think the Marauder was the image that introduced me to Battletech, but the Archer was the first mech that gave me the feeling of Robotech. Because if you remember the missiles that came out of the Super Valkyries and stuff like that, and all those missiles would go flying, it was actually that mech, the Archer, that caught me too. Oh yeah, I can do that to someone else on the other side of the map board. I gotta play that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just something, really cool when you're firing those missiles down the battlefield, and them connecting. That just makes it so that it's, I don't know, it just makes the game.
So when I think of BattleTech, I picture in my mind, I close my eyes and I see some walking tank bristling with autocannons and missile launchers, bursting through some trees or cresting a hill and just laying fire down on another mech, and that mech taking it and firing back. It's not like a duel, but it's kind of like a duel, and it's just two great machines of war going at each other. That's what I think of when I think of just BattleTech.
I guess it really depends on the faction if it is a duel, right?
Yeah, I guess for the Clanners or even some of the Draconis Combine that could fall into that.
Throughout the years, I mean, like I said, Brett, I think you and I started League the same year. What has kept you, I guess, your focus, your fascination with BattleTech versus every other kind of game that's out there? I mean, now with Kickstarter, there's tons of stuff that comes out, like every week something new comes out. But what's kept BattleTech there for you in the forefront?
Well, it's always had a soft spot for me. When I started reading and reading avidly, it was just as much BattleTech info as I could devour. After that, my son was born, and I played avidly for a little while, and then I took some time off. By some time off, I want to say almost a decade, probably, where I didn't do a whole lot of gaming at all. And then I kind of got back into 40K a little bit, and a good chunk of the people that I was playing 40K with showed some interest in BattleTech. We've got a couple of them in the league. We've got Carstairs Stables, and we've got Hubris Inc. Those two were probably my biggest trigger to really go hard onto it again and be like, I know most of the people that I used to play League with that are still around. I know these couple of new people that are interested. I'm going to get something going, and we're just going to have a community again, and everybody's going to come together. So I guess the base answer to that question is everybody else. I have always stayed involved and interested in it because of the enjoyment of playing with other people and what they get out of it.
I was going to say ditto and just leave it at that. What has this kept me playing BattleTech for a total of about 30 years now? I think I started when I was 14. Is I've had amazing people around me who've wanted to be involved in some of my weird schemes for campaigns, or apparently BattleTech lust is infectious. People want to play the game as soon as they hear about it. It just keeps popping up. People keep, what's your hobby? Oh, let me show you all my miniatures. And they're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. What are the rules? How do you play? And the next thing you know, you got a mini campaign started in your kitchen. My wife plays. Some of my really good friends play. I've missed League, and that's what has pushed me into trying to keep it going when Stu was ready to step down, and why I redid it when Bruce and I did it, and why I was so happy when Brett suggested the idea and we got back into doing it. I love this game. I've spent a ton of money on it. I love the fact that people keep wanting to play. My son-in-law plays, my wife plays, my middle child wants to play. I think this is going to go on a very, very long time.
I've been prepping up some, all my mechs actually for painting, and one of my daughter's friends, who's 9 or 10, asked me if those were mechs. It doesn't matter where you are, whether it's Calgary or not, everybody seems to at least have heard of it.
The video games helped a lot.
Yeah.
They definitely have drawn a bunch of attention when attention has potentially waned. As we mentioned, it's got a history of lots of books, little books, lots of books, little books. And that has more to do with the history of the company and what's going on. But when the video games come out, there's always a big draw.
I had just mentioned a few minutes ago that, I consider myself to be a clan boy. Big fan of, the Ill Clan now. Clan Wolf, always loved them all the way back from when they first invaded the Inner Sphere. Honor system, just everything. What about you guys? What faction, whether house or clan, would you want to align yourself with?
I've always been a bit of a mixed bag. I swear Davian, the Federated Sons, has always been my top one. But I always want to be a Draconis Combined samurai who's left the fold and end up in Davian space. That seems to be the way I've always done it. I have no idea why, but that's the only one that draws me to it. Maybe it's because I really like kicking Capellans. I don't know. Doesn't
everybody, though? So myself, it's a bit of a mixed bag as well. When I started off being interested in BattleTech, it was because of the Jade Falcon books. And I was all in right from the get-go. I was like, Jade Falcon, these guys are the awesome. It is definitely going to be what I want. And then time went by, and I kind of went, I really like the Federated Sons and the FedCom and Davian. And yet every time I play in a campaign, it's usually like a merc. I'm going to be a merc and do this and that. If I had to boil it down, though, from start to finish, if somebody said, pick a faction, who are you and where are you standing? It's Clan Jade Falcon.
You know what, Jason? Thank you so much for joining us with the show. It's great to have you here. Great to have you included. I have even been trying to campaign to get our Good Egg Award renamed the Jason Forbes Award. So it's great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much, guys.
And that leads us into the Week 5 matches. Game number 1, it's the Crimson Rogans, 1 win, 2 losses, and 1 tie, versus the Clan Cobra Chickens, sitting at 1 win, 1 tie, 1 loss, and 1 game still outstanding. They're the last game of Week 4 that should be finished next weekend. I would have to say in this game, I think Clan Cobra Chicken's going to be ready to play, ready to fight. The Crimson Ronin are in for a quite the eye-opener when those archer missiles start flying in from the Clan Cobra Chickens.
I'm pretty confident that the Crimson Ronin is going to overcompensate for their hesitance in their game against you this week. And they're going to come in and they're going to go hard right up the Clan Cobra Chicken's yoo-hoo with that hunchback. It is going to be a brutal fight where both teams lose a bunch. I'm calling this a 3-2 Ronin victory.
All right, well, that's a good prediction, Brett, and I think you made some very good points. Game number 2 sees the Ghost Legion with 1 win, 2 losses, and 1 tie, standing off against the Blitzkrieg Jezebels, who are sitting at 2 wins, no losses, and 2 ties. One of the very few unbeaten teams in league. I'm going to put my bet on this, and I'm going to say Blitzkrieg Jezebels surprises you, Brett, with her abilities and how much faster she's learning how to play this game, and she's going to beat you 3-2.
I can respect that. I can also respect that you say that because you don't want to sleep on the couch. I have high respect for Heather's skill and her growth from the last time that I played her. However, I am going to show her that respect by not holding back at all.
Game number 3 takes us to the Dracona Spirits, who are sitting at 0 wins, 3 losses, and 0 ties, with the Clan Cobra Chicken still outstanding, versus the Red Sons Irregulars, who are sitting at 0 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie. These teams have been struggling, starting to get their feet under them. They're starting to be able to figure out exactly how to work the league rules into faster gameplay, which means more fire, which means mechs go down. I'm going to say I like the Dracona Spirits, and they're going to get munchy on somebody.
This is going to be an interesting game for sure. The Dracona Spirits with their Wolverine with the Clan ER Medium, Thunderbolt, Awesome, Stalker, they're very much set up to do a nice standoff fire game, whereas the Red Sons Irregulars very much are in your face with their mechs. It's going to be probably hard to call, although that Caesar with its angry pilot and its personal vendetta, I gotta say I'm going to go on the Red Sons with this one. Probably, I'm thinking this is going to be a 2-1 victory Red Sons.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. Game number 4 sees the Inherjar, 1 win, 2 losses, and 1 tie, versus the Cavalier Commandos, who are sitting at the same record. Inherjar beat one of the best teams in the league. His dice really failed him in his last game. The Cavalier Commandos have played some really good, solid games. I'm going to give it to the Inherjar. I think their name's going to start becoming pronounceable by everybody because it's going to be constantly on their lips talking about them.
I'm really excited to see this game. I almost hope that it's getting played at a place and a time that I can just sit down and observe it. I recently had one of the players that I was observing a game. He looked over, he made a comment. You know, that move might not have been the best move based on the look on your face, Brett. And I kind of sat there and I looked at him and I went, you know what? That just means something that I wouldn't have done necessarily, but it doesn't mean that it's the wrong move. Both of these players can play to that aspect, and I really want to watch this game go. Dave and his Cavalier Commandos are one of the Coalition at 6 from way back in the day with myself and Jason. Riston's Rogues were part of that. I'm going to have to say, for old time's sakes, Cavalier Commandos 3-2 victory.
Still a close game, but just a little bit more damage being handed back and forth.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Cavalier Commandos' highest scoring game, and I think it's going to be a 3-2 with probably something really random going on in the game at some point in time.
Yeah, I can believe that. We've been seeing some really interesting trends and surprises popping up. It's kind of been an interesting league that way. Game number 5 is going to see us with the Carstairs Stables, 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie, up against Riston's Rogues, 3-0-1. I have been very clear about this. I'm a Riston's Rogues fan. I think he's got top 2 potential. So unfortunately, that means Carstairs Stables has to play a heck of a game to be able to beat them. I'm going to give this one as a tie, because as much as I don't want to see Riston Rogues lose, I think Carstairs Stables is going to make them pay for every inch of ground, and it'll end up being that tie.
Now, these are two of my favorite people from inside and outside the league. I've known them both for a while, and it's incredibly funny how much they strike myself as the same side of the same coin, just in different roles. Carstairs Stables, I see really as where Riston's Rogues were, lacking 5 years of experience. I think Carstairs Stables is really going to pick it up and just own in Season 2, but I think this game, probably going to be a 3-2 Rogues victory.
Yeah, we're starting to see some really good analysis out of everybody playing the games, and which is helping us. That was a great analysis, Brett. Game number 6, we have the Killer Bunnies, which seems to be one of our favorite teams here at the studio, with 2 wins, 2 losses, and 0 ties, versus the first Clovis Lancers, 1 win, 2 losses, and a tie. The Bunnies are hopping. They're always fun to watch. They're always fun to watch to play their game. They're always fun to play against. I'm going to say she's coming up with some new skills and some new tactics. You guys had quite the conversation on Saturday. I'm going to say Killer Bunnies by a 3-1. I think they're going to shock the Clovis Lancers with their firepower.
While I agree with you that I'm pretty sure it's going to be a Killer Bunny win, I think you're undercutting the Clovis Lancers and the inherent skill that they have and just bring to the table. They may not have quite as much experience in Battletech as the Bunnies do, but I think this is going to be a Bunnies win by a hair, 3-2.
I've really got to get better at my puns. Game number 7, which is the ever-popular team named the Shitehawks, who have 0 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie. They're going up against Hubris Inc., 3 wins, 0 losses, 1 tie. I'd love to surprise everybody with the Shitehawks are going to just totally surprise everyone, but it's not going to happen. Hubris Inc. is going to cap another one, so they're going to end up with 4 wins and 1 tie, and they're going to do it pretty convincingly with a 3-1 win. But right from early on in the match, the damage being thrown back and forth is going to be pretty clearly one-sided.
I both love and hate watching Shitehawk games. In the sense that brand new player, still very much learning the ins and outs of the games, what are good tactics, what are not tactics, when I should move, when I don't want to move, how's a better way to move. But I absolutely love the fact that this guy just stays positive. He shows up and he's like, I picked my name because I know where I'm going to be. Let's roll some dice and have a good time. I got to give it to Michael in the sense that he's always there and looking to have a good time. Mackenzie is going to spank him, and he's going to walk away with a smile. Probably a 3-1 or a 3-0 Hubris Inc. win.
Yeah, I'm really proud of Michael. He's learning really quickly. Game number 8 has the 55th Shadow Division. 3 wins, 1 loss, and 0 ties. Versus the Merrick's Marauders, who have 3 wins, 0 losses, and 1 tie. This could be the game of the week. It could be. Both teams have been winning pretty consistently, pretty convincingly. The big difference is my mechs actually aren't being piloted by the evil Northerners. We're going to win. We're going to win convincingly, and we're going to make sure that everybody in League knows the South side is going to rise to the top every time.
Well, as much as I want to say that the South is better than the North and we need to be on top, I think records show a little bit of history of who's been playing who. 55th Shadow Division is solid. Merrick's Marauders is solid. You both got 3 wins. I don't want to call this a tie, but I think it's definitely going to be a slugfest and probably a 4-2 victory. Flip a coin to see who it is. Comes up heads. North. 55th Shadow Division, 4-2.
Yeah. You and Jacque vote against me every week anyway.
If you were better, we wouldn't.
Game number 9 is Macross Stables with 0 wins, 2 losses, and 2 ties versus Executive Outcome. 2 wins, 1 loss, and a tie. Macross Stables is a really impressive lance. It really is. And the guy running it is pretty good at the game. Needs to keep working on basic fundamental skills and possibly maybe some range control. That would probably help out the wind column. Executive Outcomes are polished. They know what they're doing. They got big brassies, and they're willing to take hits to win games. I think this is going to be Executive Outcome. I think their mastery of the game is going to come into play here. I'm going to say 4-2, but the Executive Outcome is going to have their other 2 mechs on the verge of loss.
This game is going to come down to one of 2 things. If it is decided by mechs and skills and tactics and experience, Executive Outcome is going to win it probably 3-1. If this game comes out and it happens to be somebody got a really random dice roll, somebody fell down at the wrong time, somebody got a random crit and blew up some ammo, I have a feeling that Macross Stables has a chance at pulling out like a 2-1 victory. Pretty confident it's going to Executive Outcome, but I'm not willing to write off Macross Stables.
Well, this show's getting better and better, Brett. I'm really happy with how things are going. I got to work on my one-liners and sometimes my volume control, but things are getting good.
I'm very happy with how this is going. We're getting some growth. We're getting some special guests. Extra special thank you to one of my old, long friends from back in the day and the Battletech universe, Jason, for his interview today. Hope to see you again in some of these episodes, buddy.
Oh, come on. I finally had something I'd written down that I could actually say.
By all means, you can finish off and close today.
All right. Well,
I don't have to go last every time.
Yeah, okay.
You can have sloppy seconds this time.
So, I don't quite have the voice John the Jacque has, but just remember this. It doesn't matter how good your tactics are. If your dice fail you, you're mulch.